Okay, so we are moving right along, and we have studied digraphs last week. So what digraph is actually two letters that come together and make a new sound, like ch. We have reviewed 3 of those, so I'll go over those real quick with you so you can help them at home with those and talk about those. So anytime they say a word or you say a word that has one of these digraphs in it, it's good to be like, oh, hey, what digraph did you hear in that? You should know that. And they love it, and they can usually pick it out. So the first one that we talked about last week is the digraph with CH. So CH says ch, and we do that motion, ch, because that motion reminds them that CH is short and it stops. So CH, we talk about mouth placement. So you can see here what their mouth should look like. Their tongue shouldn't be out, their lips should be open, their teeth should be together. Ch, to say that. We also talk about whether our voice is on or off. So in order to do that, I tell them to touch their voice. And I say ch, ch, ch. Nope, our voice isn't on. So those are all important indicators and clues for them to tell them what that sound is. We've also talked about SH. So this is where the motions come in handy, and also the mouth placement. So when we say sh, we go shh. So sh can go on forever. It doesn't stop like ch. We can't keep ch going, so it's shh, and that delineates it or distinguishes it from the digraph CH. We also can check our voice. Shh, no, our voice is not on. And then look at that mouth placement. So what we want to see is we want to see the lips pursed and open and the teeth closed. Shh, but they're closer. They're almost kind of pinched together on the corners. Shh, instead of ch, where it's very open. So those are things to look for. When they're saying them wrong, that's what you do. Get them in front of a mirror, give them a small mirror, and say, hey, watch, remember, your mouth needs to look like mine. Mine looks like this. Shh. Oh, it's kind of close together. My lips are puffed out, and my teeth are together. Shh. So those are the things that you can work on at home if you hear some of those struggles with those sounds. That's what really helps. And then TH is our last one. So this one's tricky, because TH has 2 sounds, and it's also really similar in sound to the letter F. And so in order to fix that and make sure that they're saying when they sound out words, is we'd go to our mouth again. So with our TH sound, our lips are open, our tongue is in between our teeth. And you should almost be able to see all of that. And I would kind of exaggerate it a little bit so that they can really see what you're doing, because we don't want them going as close as they sound, they're still not right. And when they sound out that word, if it has a TH but they hear then they're going to write the letter F. So it's a spelling and a reading help. So we want to watch for that. But we also can turn our voice on. So we can say or we can say and it's the same mouth. Our mouth doesn't change, we just turn our voice on. So the difference between tooth and this. Also, all digraphs can come really at any point in a word. They can be at the beginning, they can be at the end. Sometimes you find them in the middle. You can also talk about those things at home. When you're reading and you see one of those, a TH, a CH, and SH, ask them, hey, what's this say? Or, ooh, is this one of your digraphs that you've been talking about? And that helps with that memory or retention. And then we also have tricky words. So tricky words are words that we can't sound out. So the letters don't actually make their sounds, and they trick us. So these are the tricky words that we have gone over so far. No, so, of, from, one, to. Number 2, it's good to distinguish those, is to, the word, all, some, once, the, word, are, were, have, do, and who. So this week we started talking about the and word. In math, we have been talking about clocks. So we've been talking about how to read a clock, a digital clock, an analog clock, the difference between the two, and we're looking for them to recognize to the hour and to the half hour. So those are the 2 things that we're working on as far as clockwork goes, and we've been working really hard on that. We started it last week. We've started our clock books. They're moving right along with that. So, I know here they're always like, is it lunchtime yet? When do we go to recess? My kids at home are always like, can I have a snack? And I'm like, no, not until, whatever time, or when are we leaving? And it's so helpful to be able to go look at the clock. Is it time? I told you we were going to leave at 11:30. Is it 11:30? No. Okay, well then it's not time yet. So those are tools that you can use at home to help you out and not have to answer those questions constantly. But also it's helping them because we really want them to be able to read to the hour and to the half hour right now on a clock, both analog and digital. A great way to practice that is to show them a digital clock and ask them to write it as an analog clock, or the opposite. Hey, here's an analog clock. What time is that? Okay, write it like a digital clock. So they know both those terms, and they do know their hours and their half hours, and that's what we're working on. And we'll probably continue to work on that this week and make sure that we've really got that concept before we move on to too much more. We're also looking at understanding numbers, and not just like, hey, that's a 4. Like, I can look at a picture and I can see numbers in it. So I can look at a picture of fruit and see that there's 4 bananas and 3 strawberries and 2 apples. Now I can group those together and I can find out how many there are all together. But instead of saying, hey, look at this picture, you see how there's this many this many this many this, we don't want to do that because we want them to start to find those patterns. We automatically do it because our brains have been trained to, but we have to train them to have that skill as well. So anytime you can have items out, even if it's toys, oh, hey, look at your toys, look at that pile, what numbers do you see? Those kind of things. When you're cooking, when you're in the grocery store, when you're driving down the road, anytime you can kind of intrigue them or get them talking about numbers will be a big help for them. And that number fluency that we're really starting to look for, recognizing that 10 is 10 without having to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then those factors of 10. We really want to get to a point where we can count by tens, so that's what we're kind of working towards right now as far as our actual number in math, that we know the factors of 10, 7 and 3, 8 and 2, that they'd be able to recognize, oh, when I see a 7, I know if I'm going to 10, I know I have to have 3. And then being able to write those equations out and write them in number bonds. Check out the work that we do in class, the stuff that comes home, so you can see exactly what those number bonds look like, what those number sentences look like, which is just an equation. And in case we haven't talked about it, we do what's called the cumulative factor in addition. So when you add something together, 8 plus 2 equals 10. You can also write it 2 plus 8 equals 10, because in addition, we can switch those around. We can also write our number sentence where we start with our total. So 10 equals 8 plus 2, or 10 equals 2 plus 8. So technically, there's 4 ways they can write that. So sometimes if you see them come home with a paper and they've written it and they've swapped it, they did it right. They're not just like cheating and being like, oh, I'm writing the same equation, but I'm super tricky. No, we want them to do that because we want them to recognize that in addition, it doesn't matter the order that the parts come in, that it always equals the same whole. And we always talk about part, and whole. So I have a part here, I have a part here. When I bring them all together, I have my whole number. In social studies this week, we're going to start talking about the human body. I'm super excited because we were doing fables and stories last week, and this one is going to allow us to be really hands-on. We're going to have a lot of fun about it. So be ready to hear about how the body works this week, and the fun things that they're going to come home with, and the fun new knowledge that you're going to have, and things you can do at home to talk about those things and respond kind of to the things that you see them bringing home. Thank you.